Hello everyone. Uh, Excited to welcome you on this amazing topic on detoxification. I am Suyesh Bandari. I am a functional nutritionist at Thrive FNC Pune, and I welcome you all. So today we have choose the topic detoxification, which is actually very close to towards my heart. We all have toxins, a lot of toxins around us, and our bodies are temple, right? And as healthy mind only resides in a healthy and pure body, we need to get rid of these toxins on a day-to-day basis, and that's what we'll be discussing today. And we have some amazing speakers today, Mukta Pradhan and Sabita. So Mukta Pradhan is a TEDx speaker and has a master's degree in nutrition and has spent close to 2 decades in the arena of health and wellness. She discovered functional medicine with her own health took a nosedive. Using modern principles of functional medicine along with an ancient wisdom about food and based it on a sound foundation of spirituality, she recovered from a multitude of chronic illnesses herself. She founded Thrive FNC in 2017 with a vision of healing 1 million people from chronic illnesses with their simple system and methods. And we have another fabulous speaker, Sabita Agarwal. Sabita is a partner at Adarsh Zero Waste Organic Store. Adarsh is an initiative to bring change for healthy and holistic lifestyle by providing toxin-free organic food in a zero waste format, which is plastic-free and sustainable to protect Mother Nature and environment. So I welcome Mugdha and Sabita this platform and actually excited to get all of us together get enlightened on the topic detoxification toxins, which we heard a lot of around us through day-to-day basis. So I'd like to start with the my first question to Sabita. Let's just see where does the toxin comes from. What is the history behind toxic food? What is the origin of that, and what is different between toxic and non-toxic food? Sabita, if you can enlighten us on the same.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Ras, to welcome us here, and thank you everybody to spare your time to and show your interest on all this toxin and non-toxin food and how it works on our body. So, yeah, your question was like where this all started. So, I'll take you a few decades back where the origin of non-toxin food or the toxin food had started. So in 1965, when the Green Revolution had started in India, why the Green Revolution had started? Looking at the the growing population of India, the if you say maybe the government at that time had taken the decision to introduce fertilizers. So it was actually, you can say, a collaboration between government and some chemical manufacturing companies to start this revolution. And looking at that, they had started the revolution and introduced lot of fertilizers in the organic or the agricultural field, where the fertilizers were introduced in 1965 to grow more and more the grains or the whatever the requirement of all our day-to-day food requirements and grain and everything. So that is where it started with introducing fertilizer. And the farmers were very unaware about all the side effects of that. The reason was to start this is to manage the ratio, the global hunger index of India. But then the truth is, still today India stands still on 103rd position uh, in hunger index. So so if you see the bottom line, the truth is, people who had to get benefited by this, which is again the government and the chemical manufacturing company, they got all the benefits. And at the other hand, farmers, we as a consumer, our environment and our landfill, they all get lots of chemical. And till today we are suffering, and we still yet to overcome on that. So that is where was the origin of this toxin foods. So if you allow me, I'll just show a small video which where you can see how it all started.
Yeah, sure. difference between toxic food and non-toxic food. And now I'll move to my second question. And before that, I'll just like to inform all the participants that we'll also be having Q&A session at the end of the session, just 10-15 for the 10-15 minutes. You can just put your questions in the chat section. Okay, so we will be also be answering them. So coming to Mugdha, how do these toxins impact our health? How do these affect? So if you can just enlighten us on the same. Mugdha.
Sure, Suyash, and thank you for that wonderful intro. I was a little busy in making sure that the session is running live on FB also. Give me a minute. I just want to share my screen. I have a few slides that I've prepared.
Great.
And what I'd also like to do is kind of take everyone through the flow of our conversation, because I think we have so much information packed in this 1 hour. We might actually overextend.
Right.
So what we are going to go through is basically the origins of toxic food, the impact of toxins. So this is the flow, and then in the end we'll have Q&A, which Suyash spoke of. So going back to your question, Suyash, about the impact of toxins on health. In fact, before I answer that question, I wanted to run a quick poll, because Savita just spoke about how, like where is the origins of all these toxins in our food. I just wanted to launch a quick poll. So everybody who's attending, can you just answer this question? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. We are seeing nearly it's a majority of people who actually have switched to using organic food, and that's good, because I can see that nearly more than 50% now is saying they've used organic
really
food.
Wonderful to see.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see, because then it makes, like what I want to say next about how toxins impact health, then it just makes it a little easier for me to talk about that, because if everybody is not using organic, they'll wonder what I'm talking about. All right, so we're seeing a majority actually, so 52% people have voted that they actually have used organic, and they mostly use organic food. All right, cool. So, okay, I'm going to move on to the to my answer, and I'm going to end the poll here. Yeah, I'm going to share the results as well. Okay, so moving on to the question that you had, Suyash, how do toxins impact health? So what we've seen, so what we do at Thrive, for those of you who are new to Thrive and our work, or you might have joined the session a little late, we work primarily with chronic diseases, right? So we work with diseases that might have occurred over time, which includes things like diabetes and obesity and PCOD, PCOS, but we also work with really complex conditions like fibromyalgia and MCTD and all of those. And often we've seen that a lot of people who come to us, the root cause of their diseases is because of a toxin overload that they have in their body. Now the people listening to this might not really have a major illness as such, but what is important to know that even small doses of exposure to different toxins, not just the pesticides and fertilizers, I will speak about that as well later. But even smallest exposure to toxins from the environment can create symptoms like headache. It can create symptoms like exhaustion. It can actually, if you have a toxin overload, that can also create excess weight. It can create skin problems. A lot of times the psoriasis and eczema cases that come to us are because of a toxin overload. So toxins can create a lot of chronic health conditions, and they start off very insidiously. They might start off small, and then over time they build up and become some big conditions. So that's the impact toxins have on health. And different people, depending on their genetic structure, right, depending on their genes, will express this toxin overload in different ways. But toxins have a major impact on health, and this slide kind of shows all the different ways in which toxins can impact someone's health. So did that answer your question, Suyash, or did I leave it?
Yeah. So, okay. So, going ahead, I would like to know that, like, what are the actually sources for the toxins? Like that's interesting. We got to know that how does it impact it, but it would be great, like, if you can know what are the sources, where we get toxins inside a body, because I feel that in everything there is some kind of toxin, or it's everywhere around our environment. So if you can just throw some light on the sources, what are the different sources where we can get toxin from?
Sure, sure. So, like I tell so many people, it's like literally we are swimming in a sea of toxins, right? Because if you start looking at from where are we getting these into our body, people will be amazed. Again, I'm going back to my slide because it just helps me make my point. So the question is, how do they enter us, right? Toxins can enter our body from multiple sources. They can come in from food. So one source of toxins from food is, of course, the pesticides and fertilizers that are sprayed on the food itself, right? So these are external chemicals that are sprayed on food, and when you eat them, and Sabita will go much more in detail about that, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But there are other ways in which toxins from food can come into our body. So genetically modified food. So even if it's organic soy, but because soy is genetically modified, that genetically modified soy itself becomes a source of toxins for our body. Then in a lot of foods, there are hormone mimics, right? So estrogen is a female hormone. A lot of foods actually have estrogen mimics. So soy estrogens or estrogens that are coming from the dairy that you consume, a lot of these can also become toxins in our body. And then you have this entire class of chemicals called as excitotoxins. And excitotoxins are toxins that once they enter your body, they actually start creating irregular neural impulses. So they actually start interfering with your brain's communication itself. So these excitotoxins can come in the form of MSG, which is almost always added into all processed foods. Excitotoxins, so sugar is an excitotoxin, right? So sugar, you might buy organic sugar, you might buy non-pesticide infused sugar, but sugar on its own is an excitotoxin for the brain, which is why we see kids going off and becoming hyper after they consume sugar, right? So sugar is a toxin for the body. And then you have all these processed foods and processed meats, like, if you're buying, for example, sausages and bacon, then those have nitrites, nitrates, sulfites, all the hydrogenated oils. Basically, if you look at the list here in terms of food, these are things that usually come to you from processed food. If you're looking at natural whole food, you won't really get so many toxins in from there. But generally in the process of making your snacky junk food, a lot of toxins get added. And you might think, like, somebody might think that, oh, it's such a small quantity, it's just like a microgram. But even medicines are given to you as micrograms only, right? A single tablet will just have a microgram of that particular active compound that's going to work on your blood pressure or on your diabetes or whatever. So even these toxins in their micro amounts can still impact human health. And that's one place. So that's just food. And then I have 8 other names here. Oh no, I have 9. I'm really bad at math, so I have 5 2 times. And then there is this category that I call dying to look good. Okay, so a lot of women especially put on so many products on their skin and on their hair and on their body without knowing that these products contain so many toxins that are actually carcinogens that can interfere with their hormone functions. Like when we get women with PCOD and PCOS problems or any kind of menstrual health problem, often we find out that the culprit, I mean, yes, they have deficiencies and all of that we know from a blood test, but also the products that they use, the personal care products, the soaps and the shampoos and the lotions and the creams and the the lipsticks that they use, those also often have a lot of toxins which can cause health problems. Then cleaning products, so Domex and Harpic and all these harsh chemicals have, like if you look at the back of it, they'll say if accidentally consumed, go to poison control center. So they on the label itself tell you that it is poison, and then you are using these products in your house to clean up your house. I don't know in which world that makes sense. It's just the way these products are advertised that we end up buying them. Now, like, I am really concerned with the amount of hand sanitizer everybody is using with this COVID fear, right? Like, why can't you just use good old regular soap and water? But everyone's drowning in hand sanitizer, and people don't know hand sanitizers have so much triclosan in them triclosan is a proven carcinogen. So, you know, the chance of you getting sick by corona is much lesser. The chance of you getting sick by the hand sanitizer is much higher. But a lot of cleaning products also have toxins that enter our body, because our skin is one of the most absorptive surface. It's a living, breathing tissue. And anything you put on it gets absorbed into your body, and then that goes into your liver. I'll get into the liver thing later. But cleaning products is another source. Air, of course, like if anybody here is from Delhi, then you know how air can really mess up your health. But even during Diwali, for example, when the number of firecrackers are like, it's just insane, the kind of pollution that we see, we all experience respiratory issues, right? So pollutants from air, volatile organic compounds, air fresheners, all these deodorants, even these scented candles often can release these VOCs. So a lot of toxins, and for people who are more sensitive to them, these can impact their health even more. So air is one more source of toxins. Toxic mold, people don't know this, but there's this particular species of mold called Strachomyces botrytis. And this mold is particularly toxic because it releases spores. So if you have spaces in your house, or if you have household surfaces that have mold on them, please reach out to us. We'll help you clean that up in a natural way, because this mold can release toxic spores that can create a lot of chronic health issues, including something like fibromyalgia. We've had fibromyalgia patients whose condition improved when they actually got out of that moldy house that they were living in. Water, in India, we have a lot of chlorination of water. Now, what people don't know is, chlorine replaces iodine in their thyroid gland. So the thyroid uses iodine to make thyroid hormones. And if chlorine comes in, then the thyroid, because all these halogens look alike structurally, right? So the thyroid might assume this is iodine, and the chlorine goes and replaces iodine, and people end up having thyroid dysfunction. So fluoride is another one. Like I know in certain places in India, especially like Andhra Pradesh and all, there are spots where the fluoride content in water is very high, and most women in that area end up with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. So fluoride, chlorine, both are thyroid disruptors. And then in water, because of all the toxic cleaning products and the personal care products we use, often a lot of these things go into our water cycle, and then they come back into our body, because the earth is a closed system. Our water is not being suctioned off by some alien ship, right? It's all here only. Whatever we do to this planet remains here. So water also becomes a source of toxins. Utensils, a lot of people now are aware that non-stick cookware actually releases carcinogens into their food. So people have stopped using Teflon, but if anyone here is still using non-stick, then I would highly recommend you ditch that right away. Teflon releases carcinogens in your food, and there's a very high correlation between using non-stick cookware and chronic health conditions. Aluminium, again, people don't have a conclusive answer, but I'll tell you conclusively that usage of aluminium has been shown to increase the incidence of Alzheimer's. Aluminium as a metal can go and replace zinc in your cells, and zinc is such a vital mineral for building immunity and for so many other enzymatic functions. So if your aluminium cookware is leaching aluminium into your food and you're eating that, you're going to have aluminium deposits from your utensils itself. And then all those people who use plastics to heat their food, right, like microwavable plastic, these things release BPA, these things release carcinogens again. So sometimes we end up doing things for convenience without realizing that convenience is going to cost us more in the long term. And now, like I especially feel the need to speak up about vaccines, because everybody is waiting for the coronavirus vaccine and they don't know the kind of impact vaccines have on human health. Vaccines usually have the most lethal forms of all the heavy metals that I've discussed so far. So aluminium, mercury, vaccines have the most bioabsorbable form of this, which means these can cause the most damage. Plus, vaccines have other chemicals like, preservatives and adjuvants, which are there to preserve that the integrity of that vaccine. So formalin, for example, and then there is fetal DNA, there is animal DNA, there is so much junk in vaccines that can actually go and create a whole host of diseases. So while taking vaccines, please be careful. I would recommend avoiding them as much as possible, but that's a topic for another day. But vaccines is another source of toxins in our body. And then medicines, the regular medicines that doctors prescribe and you can get over the counter without even a prescription sometimes. A lot of these medicines can contribute to the toxin load in your body. So birth control pills, and non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin, and then all your antacids, all your antidepressants, all the painkillers that people take for migraines, the statins that people take for cholesterol. All of these medicines release toxins in your body, and the poor liver has to bear the burden of this. So that's why when people come to us for their health problems, the first thing that we do is start making a plan to take them off their medicines. Because if you're taking medicines, you're constantly adding toxins to your body. So these are the sources. I try to keep it as short as possible, Suyash, but I couldn't make it any more compact than this. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand it over to you now.
It literally
Before
brought up my
Shreya
mind that
goes into the next topic, this topic reminds me of one small clip which I had seen.
sure,
Just to add to Mugda's the details, that how toxins and these kind of chemical ones, they come into the environment, and it stays there forever, as Mugda said, it just do not evaporate somewhere. So it stays there for decades and decades. So I'll just show you one small clipping on that, which will explain you the things. 1 second.
yes.
So this toxin subject, and like you also, we've seen, right, in so many blood tests that heavy metals and chemical toxin overload is actually what is creating
And even there is a lot of research that eating insecticide and pesticide foods actually kills the egg for women, and it might be one of the causes of infertility.
even declining sperm count can be attributed to all the low fertility rates that we are seeing actually could be usually attributed to the toxins in the environment.
Right.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, Savita.
Yes, Savita.
You can see the video.
Yeah, I'll just start. Really done almost 5 decades back. But then if you see in Kerala, Kasaragod area, we can still see there is no organic farming, and still those chemical effects are seen on people's health, in environment and everywhere. So once these chemicals are induced around us and in us, be aware that it is not going to evaporate overnight, or even in few years. So guys, we have to be really, really very careful about that.
Thank you, Savita, for sharing this with us. And with said that, there are DDT and lots of insecticides and pesticides have been banned globally. But why it's in India, it's still used, and then why it's not banned in India, and or if it's banned, then what are the chemicals which have been banned? If you can just throw some light on the same.
Sure, Shez, this is a very good question. So, there are, if I have to number it, then there are at least 66 pesticides or these kind of chemicals which are globally banned. And it is actually banned in India as well. So when I say globally banned, it is not to be used anywhere for any kind of agriculture. But then this is used in India because, we all know how we control things, and, the checking system and everything around us. So it is not only used in India, it is used without any kind of control, on the the quantity they have been used. And they're just used, nobody is checking on the quantity, because see, every we are eating it as a fertilizers and chemicals and pesticides through our food, and we are not aware about that. Only thing is, they have been encouraged, the farmers have been encouraged to use the quantity or these kind of pesticides and chemical for the benefit of all the manufacturer of these kind of the chemicals and all, and we are again the sufferer of this. So on this note, if you allow me, Shreyas, I also have one more clipping which gives a very good clear picture that how it works. One second.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, like we were discussing, right? Sperm count and fertility has dropped big time. And
Yeah.
while yes, deficiencies, zinc deficiency, B12 deficiencies can impact that, but we are seeing a big role of toxins. And in fact, like I was researching on the effect of each of these toxins, right? So if I had to share all that information, this would become a 5-hour talk.
Mm-hmm.
But it's insane how toxins impact health.
Yeah.
Okay.
क्या असर
Yeah.
होता
Can
है
you see,
ये
Shreyas?
जानने
Yeah.
के लिए हमारी टीम ने पंजाब को
been encouraged to use the maximum quantity of it. So the reason why I am showing all this clipping is that how much ever we explain it online, but then when we see it, and we know the visual effect is always more, and when we get to the fact and we see that how and why it is happening, so then it gives us a complete different idea. That is the reason I'm trying to show the maximum possible the clips I have. So it's over to you, Shreyas.
Yeah. So again, thank you for sharing this, because a lot of definitely people here must not be knowing that. And as Mugdha, we were discussing that now there are a lot of toxins which definitely impact our health, as you showed. Now, what are some most dangerous toxin which has a specific impact on our health, and what symptoms does they give to us, so that we can.
Yeah, so let's go back to, I'd like to share my slides again, because see, all these toxins have an impact on our health, right? There is no denying that, a nitrite will not impact you or a sulfite will not impact you. But then, like I said, we are swimming in a sea of toxins, right? So if somebody has to prioritize, this is what I need to like first get rid of, and then I'll focus on the smaller ones later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really great question. Thanks, Suyash. I'll just go back to my slides and talk of the ones that we have seen in our work so far seem to have a major impact. So the most dangerous ones in terms of like chronic health conditions, right? The first there would be heavy metals itself, and heavy metals like mercury and aluminium and lead and arsenic. And why these are so dangerous is often these heavy metals go and start settling in your the tissues like your bones and your bone marrow and your brain. The problem with these heavy metals is often they end up replacing a lot of, so for example, I spoke of zinc earlier. So zinc is an extremely critical mineral when it comes to building immunity, when it comes to a lot of enzymatic reactions in the body, when it comes to even things like fertility, when it comes to even maintaining your gut microbiome. So zinc is very important in the body, and often metals like these heavy metals that we've listed, copper is a competitor for zinc. The minute you have excess copper in your body, zinc is going to be depleted. Copper is not even going to take the place of zinc, it's just going to go and deplete zinc. Aluminium is going to replace the space that a cell has for zinc. So zinc won't even get entry into your cell if there's too much aluminium. Besides which, aluminium, like I spoke earlier, right? So aluminium has been implicated in the lead up to Alzheimer's. So often people who have Alzheimer's, their brain tissue shows higher levels of aluminium than in non-Alzheimer's. So the plaques that you see in Alzheimer's, right? So there is a higher level of aluminium in their tissue. Mercury, we could do an entire Zoom session on mercury. It's our one source of mercury, especially the larger fish, because these fish are in sea, and there is this thing called as biomagnification. So they might eat smaller fish that might have mercury overload, and then over time this smaller mercury overload will build up in this big fish's body. And then when you eat this fish, this mercury is now in the most bioavailable form called ethyl mercury, and that's going to get absorbed into your tissues immediately. And mercury can cause everything from autism in tiny children to genetic mutations, and like if the mother is exposed to a lot of mercury in pregnancy, there is a very high chance of deformities in the offspring. Mercury can create anxiety and depression. We've had a lot of patients who have mercury poisoning and who have severe mood disorders, and they don't even know that it's because of the mercury. They just think that's their personality type. And once we help them get rid of the mercury in whatever way we do, they start seeing a lot of improvement. Mercury can also create digestive disorders, but mercury is really the worst because it's a neurotoxin. So it actually goes and damages your nerves, and it messes with your brain big time. Aluminium I already spoke of. Lead is another one that can actually create inflammation in your liver. I do have a slide later of symptoms of toxin overload, but lead on its own, and I think a lot of people are aware about lead because around 10 years ago or something, there was news about how lead can lead to cancer and lead can create a whole lot of chronic health issues. Arsenic, if you've read Agatha Christie novels, then you'll know arsenic was one of her favorite ways of murder. Slow poisoning with arsenic is what a lot of her perpetrators in her novels would use to kill their victims, especially like wives frustrated with their husbands, and then the husband would die suddenly, but then the culprit would be arsenic poisoning. So arsenic can poison a body over time. And finally, what my research has shown is that often rice has very high levels of arsenic because of how rice grows. So rice needs a lot of water, and the rice, the grass, I mean the plant, it is steeped in water for a very long time. So what happens is that water, like being in that water sogged area, ends up releasing arsenic from the ground, and rice roots apparently are exceptionally great at absorbing arsenic. So rice, if it's grown in contaminated soil, can have an arsenic overload. Pesticides like DDT. So again, I'll send that. I'll send the DDT research as links again after the talk. But DDT itself, it is very, very interesting to see that the polio thing that happened, right? Like when polio cases went on the rise, and when polio was a very big pandemic, like corona is right now, it significantly correlates with the use of DDT. So, and all the symptoms of DDT poisoning are exactly like the symptoms of poliomyelitis. So most of these pesticides, and this in the clips that Sabita has shown us, we can very clearly see the kind of impact that chemical fertilizers and pesticides have on the human body, the level of deformities and the level of issues they cause. Endocrine disruptors are toxins that can actually mess with your endocrine glands. So we have these glands that make hormones in our body, from the thyroid hormone to insulin to even your adrenal hormones to your pituitary hormones, right? So all these hormones are made in the body to maintain a state of balance. And endocrine disruptors are toxins that can go and disrupt this hormone balance. So like I spoke of earlier, soy, estrogens, and then estrogens coming in from the dairy industry, right? A lot of our cows nowadays are pumped with estrogen to increase their yield of milk. And I've had cases of men whose estrogen levels were higher than me and my team members combined. Okay, so a man whose estrogen level was higher than 2 women. And this is because the estrogen was coming in from the dairy that he was having, and these xenoestrogens can impact. So that's why a lot of girls are hitting puberty as early as 8.5 or 9 years. A lot of men are having issues with delayed puberty, right? So puberty onset is delayed. So either their typical expression of masculine characters like hair, facial hair, body hair, that is repressed, or they have this condition called as gynecomastia, where they develop like something that's similar to breast, all because of this excess estrogen that's coming in from their food supply. And there are other estrogen mimics that are there in our personal care products, the ones I spoke of earlier. Even BPA from plastic, right? So all the plastic containers that you use, or if you're somebody who is using Bisleri water all the time, or these bottled water all the time, then a lot of BPA from that comes in. So I personally always use glass bottles. I never use plastic. But this plastic can also disrupt your endocrine hormones, and it can cause hormonal imbalances. So either early periods in girls, or PCOD, PCOS kind of issues, or gynecomastia or male breasts or delayed puberty in boys. All of these can happen due to endocrine disruptors. GMO foods, I also mentioned these earlier, but these are foods that are genetically modified to either increase yield or to become pest resistant or drought resistant. And these are foods, when anybody modifies genes of something, it means that that food is no longer in its natural form. Our genes have not been tampered with yet, unless Bill Gates gets to do what he wants to do. Our genes have not been tampered yet. So what happens is when we eat these genetically modified foods, our body cannot really process them the way it would normal natural food, and then that starts creating a whole lot of diseases. So these GMO foods themselves start becoming like toxins in our body. And typically the most commonly GMO foods we see now are soy, wheat, corn, and certain animal products, like sometimes to increase yield again, the cows or even chicken, for example, the broiler chicken that you eat, they injected with hormones, right? So then their entire genes itself, sequence itself gets modified. So these are again things that the body would treat as toxins. So what is a toxin? A toxin is something that the body would consider as poison and would find a way to remove, because it knows if this thing is there in the body, it's going to create disease. And the last category of the most dangerous toxin, but I think the one that we should speak a lot about, is vaccines, because vaccines, like I said earlier, has aluminum and mercury in its most bioabsorbable form, which is really bad for the body. And all the other preservatives, the formalin, the formaldehyde, all the other adjuvants that are added to maintain that vaccine's integrity, all of these are really harmful for human health. And in my opinion, these are the 5 most dangerous toxins that one should pay attention to and figure out how to eliminate. So we'll talk of the elimination and detox, but these are the top 5 in my list.
Oh, great. So with that said, now as we all have become aware that what are the sources of toxins and how they impact our health. Now it's time to how we can identify a food, whether it's organic or not. Sabila, if you can just throw some light on that, like whether this food is toxic or non-toxic, or how do we identify it? Because that's one of the biggest challenges I see in almost everyone who raises questions regarding the same. You can give some practical tips to know and identify that would be great.
Okay, so see, basically, first thing I would like to just tell you that there was one saying from one big writer. I can share the name later. That he said that few decades back, that now today what we are eating is actually not food. It is something like food. So we have changed over the years so much that we don't even eating the pure food now. It is like something like food we are eating, but we don't know what we are eating. So now it's time that we should know that what we are eating. So there are very few and very simple tips I would like to give to our listeners, that how can we identify our organic food. So there are first thing which we have to see and understand, that we should never go by the look of it. So anything which is very beautiful, very shiny, very look alike, and for example, tomatoes all are in same color and same size and nice red. So we have to think that nature never give us things which is look alike always. Like even if you see human being, we are all different size, different shape, different colors and everything. So how come those things which we are eating are made so beautiful and look alike? And so these are few things which we have to always keep in mind, that nature will not give you something which is as beautiful as they look on the shelf of our market. So in organic, we should always see that something which is looking very beautiful and shiny, we should actually get suspicious immediately that what is wrong with this food, because when it is coming from directly from the farms, it is not looking, it will actually not look that beautiful. So my first tip is, you should always love the ugly. So we need to understand that why it is looking like that and what is the reason behind that. And so that's the first tip I would like to give. Then secondly is, The second tip is short and simple. So anything which is very big in size, or if you pick up dudi or any fruit in that case, papaya or anything, so it has a natural size of it, and if you grow it organically, it will grow only till that size, and it will not grow very big. And so the thing is, we have to also see the size of it. It naturally grown food or organically grown food will not be very very large in size. Then the third tip is the smell and the taste of it. If you get an organic bunch of coriander at home and then you chop it, you will immediately feel the difference while you are smelling that, and you are cooking that, or when you are making that, so that you will immediately understand. So these are few things which we see. Apart from that, there's one more very basic thing which we need to see is insects. The moment we see some insects in our palak or in any of our fruit, we get scared. Oh my god, throw it away, we cannot use it. But if we say that insects are even more clever than human being, they understand that where they should go and what they should eat. They know there is no pesticide there to kill us, and that is the reason they go there and they eat that food. So why they are going there? Because there is a life in that food. So what we say, everything works is the prana. So if there is a prana, then the insects will go there, and anything which is live. So Mugdha will also maybe give more insight on that. That any food which has life in it, it will give some nutritious value to us compared to things which we are eating, which is lifeless. So never get scared of the insects. So they come, they eat their part and they go, but then they will not harm you. Nowhere compared to the harm which is we are getting from the pesticides. So we have to be very very careful about it. In that context, I can share one story with you that once we had visited our farm long back. So that was actually the dudi farm. So all the dudis was like nicely grown and in the big size, very good colors and everything. There was only one small patch of dudi, only single patch of dudi, which was like in some different crooked shape and little that bird ka that marks in that, and not grown completely, which we thought. So then we asked that farmer that what is wrong with this particular batch of the dudi, is it not good? So he said, no, this is free from pesticide, that we have kept only for our family, we don't sell that. So this is how it happens. So we have to be very careful when we are choosing the food, and these are few tips which I can share for now. And yeah, on that particular thing which I gave you the example, I have the video also to show you. Just give me one moment.
I like your videos a lot, Sabita. But once we start thinking of all the places toxins come, right, then it becomes like a really scary world. Like, oh my God, everything has poison in it, right? So
what to eat, what to avoid, it becomes so.
Yeah, and how to even mitigate that effect, right? Like, what does one do if somebody has been exposed to it all lifelong?
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we got a fair idea about what I was talking about. So, so over the period of time, even these farmers had understood that, what is good for them and how harmful these pesticides are. And that is the reason they have kept these things aside only for their near and dear one. And we have been laden with all the chemicals to die.
Thank you for those wonderful tips to identify, what our actual organic food looks like and what how we can differentiate with the non-organic foods. Now, Mugdha, coming to you again. Now we know that we have so much toxin around us. We are ingesting so much toxins around us. Now, what are the steps we can take to detoxify from them, to ingest them out? So, if you can just throw some light on that.
Yeah, sure, I will. See, the thing about detox is a lot of people think detox means just drinking green juice in the morning and then like just having lime water in the day and detox ho gaya ki maine, like I can't tell you the number of people who've been like on Insta, they post pictures, I'm detoxing today and I'm doing a juice cleanse, and detox doesn't really work like that. Detox is not about drinking juices. You really have to understand what detox means deeply, because a lot of these, in fact, I'll just go back to sharing my slide and then I'll talk about this. Because what happens with toxins, whether you're ingesting toxins from, whether it's airborne toxins or whether it is, toxins that have gone in from your utensils like aluminium and your non-stick, or whether it's toxins that have gone in from your personal care products, all of these toxins are there in your body, right? So just drinking juice is not going to remove them. So going back to my slide. So this is what happens really, even in a healthy body. Let's say you're not overexposing yourself to toxins, like maybe somebody like Sabita and me, and you also, Suyash, who are very careful about everything that we put into our body, about the soaps and shampoos that we use. Right. So our toxin exposure is minimal. Even in that case, now this is typically where toxins enter from, right? So they can, if it's airborne toxins, they'll go in from the lungs. If it's something that you're applying on your body, or some chemical that you got exposed to, or when you're washing your bathroom with, or even when you were like, let's say somebody came and wiped your floor in your house, you didn't even touch the Domex or that phenyl, whatever was there in that bucket, but you just walked on that floor which was wiped with these chemicals. The skin on your foot is still going to absorb these toxins in your body. Gut and intestine, of course, are the foodborne toxins, are the medicines that you're taking, are all these waterborne toxins that might be going in. In addition, if you have been injected with vaccines, then those additional toxins have gone in, right? So this is all the sources from where toxins can go in. Now, what happens in the body is, from whatever source a toxin has gone, it will first go to the liver for detoxification, because that is the primary place for detox. The liver is so largely it's underestimated big time, right? Everybody talks of the heart, everybody talks of the brain, everybody is now talking about the respiratory system and the lungs because of the COVID fear. But most people don't know that so I had heard somebody say this once, that the life of the liver depends on the liver, right? So the kind of life you live really depends on your liver's health. And I think in our blood tests and the analysis also, we see this so many times, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
People who have chronic diseases most often have a really dysfunctional liver.
Right.
So all of these toxins first go to the liver, and then the liver processes them. So I won't go into that phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 now, because it will, like, we just don't have enough time. Right. But the liver has different phases through which it breaks down different toxins and then decides from where these are going to be excreted. So the excretion points for toxins are from your skin, from your sweat. When somebody sweats, toxins go out through the sweat. From the kidneys, for example, when you urinate, a lot of toxins from the body are carried out. So that's why your urine color also changes depending, like if you've taken some medication, you'll see a change in the color of your urine, right? So kidneys are the secondary system for toxins to be excreted. Your colon, so basically your bowel movements and being able to defecate and have healthy bowel toxins would be skin rashes for sure, because again, like I said, the skin is one mechanism for toxin exit. And if the skin is not doing this properly, then a lot of toxins might get deposited subdermally, so below the skin, and then you might start seeing acne and skin rashes. Allergies are another response mechanism, a feedback mechanism that the body can give for excess toxins. Joint pain, arthritis, autoimmune disorders, because when there is excess toxin stored in the body, then the body's immunity also starts getting impacted. Also, the liver is one place for your immune system to work really well. So if the liver is overloaded with toxins, then you start having autoimmune disorders as well. Heart problems, chronic fatigue is another big time response mechanism that we've seen to a toxin overload, where people are feeling exhausted. Because if your toxins are getting stored cellularly, then all your enzymatic reactions, your energy production mechanisms are going to be impacted. So fatigue is one. Diabetes, because your liver and pancreas are deeply connected. So sometimes the toxins that are overloading your liver can also start overloading your pancreas, and that can start creating diabetes. Other stuff. So you can read this, but a lot of these conditions actually are indicative of toxin overload more than anything else. And typically what doctors do is they just look at this reaction that's happening in the body and give you a medicine for it. Like, acha, you have a skin rash and you have acne, let me give you a steroid cream to apply on it. Okay, you have high BP, let me give you BP medicine to bring down the BP. If you have autoimmune condition, let me give you immunity suppressant so that you won't get. If you have pain, let me give you painkillers to kill the pain. But those medicines add on to the toxin load and they never resolve the root cause, right? So the condition just keeps getting worse. So what I recommend and what we do at Thrive also is we always get people to do their blood tests to understand what is the level of toxins that they have. So when somebody comes to us with a particular condition, we want to rule out all the possible root causes, out of which toxins is a major one. So we get their basic test done. So liver function test, for example, can tell us if there is indeed a toxin overload in the body. And if anyone is interested, right, we can, after this thing, we can send you details on how you could figure out which tests are needed. Oh yeah, I have a nice cool poll that I wanted to run. Let me see if that's there. So have you experienced any of these symptoms that I just spoke of? Because then there is a possibility that you could have a toxin overload in the body. Is the poll available? Okay, great.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so easy to get rid of these conditions without having to take medication, right? You just find out that if this is the root cause, you get rid of the root cause and the condition is gone. Wow, that's 61% that I'm seeing right now. All right, let's wait for another 30 seconds and then we'll end the poll. There are also other expensive tests that you can get done to specifically find out the load of mercury and all, but we don't usually recommend that because A, they're very expensive, and B, most of those tests are not even done in India, though they're usually done abroad, like Germany, and then your hair and your nail samples are taken and then they're couriered to Germany and then the tests are done there. So we usually, like at Thrive also, we don't usually recommend those tests unless it's a very, very critical case where it's very high overload of a particular metal. But generally from the simple liver function, CBC, kidney function tests, we can find out what is the toxin overload in most people. All right, let's end the polling and I want to share the results. So that's 65% of the audience right now who mostly eat organic food, who are saying they are experiencing some of these symptoms that could be a result of a toxin overload itself, right? And that's what, it's not just food, right? Toxins can come into the body from so many places. It's always best to figure out what is your toxin overload and then move into detox. And then I'm taking you to the next slide, which talks of detox. All right, so what does your body need for detox? It needs two things. One is it needs the right nutrition, because you can't detox if you're deficient. So if you're just doing juices like the one here, right, the picture I put up here, this is typically what most people do for detox. And this doesn't really work because it might not even give you all the nutrients. So people don't know that protein is an essential part of a detox process, because your body uses protein, like all these amino acids, taurine and glycine and all of that, to actually enable the phase 2, phase 3 detox pathways. So protein is a critical component of detox. So if somebody is giving you a detox plan without any protein in it, that plan is not detox, that plan is just fasting and reduced calorie thing, which will still make you feel good, because fasting and being in reduced calorie states is not a bad thing, but that is not a true detox. Secondly, you need vitamins like your B vitamins, and then you need vitamin C, which again is very, very important, right? So you might need supplementation also if your body is already deficient in these vitamins. And then you need minerals, right? So you need your zinc, you need your magnesium, you need all of these minerals for a successful detox. So this is just the foundation, right? Once you have this basic foundation in place, once you have the right nutrients in place, then the second step of your detox includes making sure your detox pathways, the image I showed before, right? Your kidney, your skin, your bowel, and your ability to breathe out toxins. All of these should be open. And liver and kidney, and so liver and kidney, it's hard for you to know whether they are working well unless you look at your blood test. At least bowel functionality, most people know. Like if you're having a regular motion every day without too much trouble, then you know your bowels are working pretty well. But liver and kidney, most people don't know if they're actually ready for a detox or not. So it's best to get blood tests done there and find out. Sweating is an important part of detox. Now, sweating can be done in two ways. You could either do a hot sauna and sweat, because that will just remove toxins from your skin, or you can do like a good workout and sweat. The advantage of working out and sweating is because then it also improves your ability to exhale out the toxin, because it requires more oxygen when you're doing a workout, right? So when we do detox for people who are on board for our programs, right? So we usually do detox at a much later stage, because we have first make sure that the foundation is right. But in our detox, we make sure they're having some kind of a workout on detox days also, because that improves not just the sweating capacity, but also the breath capacity. So this is what your body needs for detox. Of course, when you're detoxing, then processed foods and making sure you're not eating anything that is not organically procured. I mean, that's the basic, that's the foundation, right? Like you can't try to do detox and then eat conventionally grown produce, because here you're trying to remove toxins and you're putting in new toxins into your body. So these are the two components of detox. That first is the nutrition. Second is making sure your detox pathways are functional. Unless that is happening, there is no point in doing detox. So that's my answer. Again, it was a pretty long answer. I don't know how much we are overshooting in terms of time, but I really feel to do justice to this, I had to give this answer.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Mugdha, for giving so much detailed view on how does a perfect detoxification process looks like, and where most of the people miss. Same. Coming back to you, Sabita, now let's talk about something about environment. Like, what are actually the effects of plastic waste generation from food item on environment, and like how you guys are, like the initiative taken by you guys is helping the environment. If you can just throw some light on the same. Great.
So plastic waste generation and the side effects and the effects of that, we all are aware of that now. So we really need not get into a lot of figures and facts of that. But just to put across, whatever plastic waste is generated in India, it is almost, if you take an average of it, it is almost 11 kg per capita consumption per person. It is in India. And out of that production, if you say more than 43% is used only for packaging, and especially for food packaging. And out of that, you can say only about 8 to 10% is recyclable. And that recycling also happens at a very complex process and very expensive way. So rest of the 38 to 40% of that, if what we say, is still there in our environment, and it is it cannot be recycled anymore. And then slowly it also goes to our the landfills and the water bodies and all. Then we have already seen a lot of videos that how it goes and chokes our marine animals, and what kind of harm it provides, it does to all these animals and even to human being. And so coming to the health part of it, even when we say that almost for more than 43 to 48% of plastic is used for the food packaging, so is it a good idea when we know that this plastic is loaded with so much of toxin, and our food is coming packed in that plastic, and then we are using that food?
Right.
So we have to think that is it a good option for us? So taking this as a consideration, what Adrish has taken the initiative is that looking at all the problems what we started with, like the toxin foods, then the plastic waste, and then the farmer part of it, that will come to that how the farmers are affected due to all this thing. So taking consideration all these different points, we started with doing organic farming. We encourage farmers across India. We have more than 9,000 farmers associated with Atrish, who does only and only organic farming for Atrish, and we do take produce from them. So by doing that, we encourage farmers to do organic farming. Then when it comes to the packaging part of it, buying a organic non-toxin food in a toxin loaded plastic packaging, it loses its purpose, right? So we have to go a plastic free packaging. So in Atrish, what we have done, that we have made it completely plastic free, where you are welcome to bring in your own containers and fill in as much as you need. Otherwise, we have recyclable paper bags or the cloth bags where you can fill in your stuff. So by doing that, we are not creating any kind of plastic waste, and also the food waste, because when we take in packets, so it is the filled packet of a particular quantity, and you have to take that whether you need that much or you don't. So by doing this, taking in your own container or in an open format, you can also take as much as you need it. So we are also reducing in a lot of food wastage. And then going further, it is not only about food, as Mugdha said, that it is not only food which give us toxins. There are different things, like starting from your morning toothpaste and the plastic brush, and all these moisturizers and the soaps and the cosmetics what you use. Then coming to household, the floor cleaners or the toilet cleaners or the hand wash, and even the laundry wash, because if you the wash in that chemical laden the laundry cleaner, and then you wear those clothes. So in every way, these kind of chemical induces in our body and in our environment. So so we have solutions for all of this. Like we have Dantmanjan, we have plastic free toothbrushes, we have reusable straws, we have all kind of floor cleaner, toilet cleaners, and you name it and we have it. So we are trying to provide a very healthy and holistic way of living, where you get all the solutions which is plastic free. So moving on to how you cook your food, as she mentioned that you should not use the aluminium or the non-stick and all. So what should you use? So we also have solutions for that. We have the earthen cookware for that, we have some wooden cookware for that. And how you eat, we have some cassaware or the copperware. They all have their own trace minerals. As she said that copper overload is not good. I just saw some question even in the chat box that should we drink water in copper? Yes, we should, but how much is very important. The quantity is very, very important. So maybe a glass to maximum 1.5 to 2 glass of copper water what you should have in a day. So people start doing overdoing on everything, that okay, we heard somewhere that the copper water is good, so we should keep on drinking over the day. So it should be restricted. We should be very wise on deciding that what we are doing, is the quantity right, is the the way we are doing, is it right. So we have solutions for all that. Then so this was the part for human health. But then at the same time, the environment health is also very, very important, because somehow that is also a part of us and we have to take care of that. So by taking this initiative, we also do not harm the environment. First thing is the plastic. No plastic waste goes in the environment, which we spoke about. But if we are not using any kind of chemical produce, for example, like if we have these the fertilizers and everything used, so it remains in our landfill. Then when you use all these chemicals for household, like let's say for example phenols and all these chemicals, so after using that, it goes in the water system, and then finally it lands to the sea or wherever you say, and then it remains there always. So we also have to avoid every possible way of the toxins which we are using on our body, and we are also releasing on the environment. So by doing all this thing, we have taken care, starting from the farmer and the organic farming, health of our consumer, health of our environment, going completely plastic free and waste free. And also we are giving employment to the all rural area women, because all the processing, grinding and everything what happens, it is, as you all know, that nothing goes through the mill in Adrish produce, everything is hand processed. So they also get the employment by doing all this with Adrish. So it is a complete, cycle we have tried creating, which is good for our environment, for our body, for our farmers and their families, and without creating any harm to anybody. So this is the initiative Adrish has taken, and it is actually doing lot of good to everyone with support of all of you. And we also want people to get aware about all this thing and make others aware. So at the end of the day, when we live, it should be completely toxin free in all the different ways. So this is the initiative of Adrish. I hope I answered.
And I love what you guys do, because my comb is from Adrish. My steel straws are from Adrish. And like now in the lockdown, it was not that easy for me to come and pick up stuff. But otherwise, and like I live alone, right? So for me, it's so easy to come and buy small quantities. Like that day, I just wanted like 100 grams of those dried bananas because I was craving for them. So I didn't have to like buy an entire packet, right? I could just come and do that. And the fact is, like, I can get the soap and like everything, right, I need is right there. So I really love. And you guys have multiple stores also now, right? You have multiple stores also now, so it's not just the one.
Yes. We in Pune, we already have 3 stores. We have in Delhi, we have in Mumbai, and we have few more planned during this lockdown and all. Everything went for toss. But then, yes, we have more plans in different cities, and in Pune, few more stores as well.
Yeah, no, I think you guys should be in like every small location.
But we are trying to reach out to the maximum number of people, so everyone should get benefited by this.
Yeah, because see, our like at Thrive, our vision is to heal 1 million people, and so many times people who come to us, right, like they want to heal, and then they don't get access to good quality food or organic stuff, and then the entire healing process starts getting delayed, right? It's not like they don't have the intention, but it's just that the supply is not available. That's why I'm like, guys, like, if Adrish was there in all places, like, it's really, I think we are lucky to be in Pune and like in Baner. Like Suyash and I keep talking about this, right? But we have, our patients are from across India, across the globe. At least outside India, it's easier. But for people, let's say in Gurgaon, they don't have that many options, or like, it's far and few. So we should have more Adrishes happening everywhere.
That reminds me that you are in Baner, but now we have store in Bhandarkar Road also. So we have access to people around that area in Kothur, Karma Road and everywhere. And we have in Koregaon Park. In Mumbai, we have in Andheri Lokhandwala, which is recently opened.
Super.
And for people in North, in Delhi, we have in Saket, Delhi. So, we have covered so far so much, and we have a lot.
I think what we'll do is in the email that I will send with all the research links, we'll also send your store details. So if somebody wants, they can look it up. So whoever's attending this session, we'll definitely send you those details. So Yash, I can see some questions. Can I go ahead and answer the ones that I like?
Sure.
There is this question about does cooking kill the pesticides? I'll leave that one to you, Sabita. But there's a question around, can you please explain how do we know if the liver and kidney are ready for detox? So it's very simple, Pavni. Just send us your blood test, any recent ones that you have, and we can take a look at it. And if they're very old, then obviously that data is not useful. But if they're recent, maybe something around 3 months, we can just tell you if you need to do any further work or if it's okay for you to go ahead. In fact, Rutuja is here, and even when we send the email, we'll send links on how you can get in touch with us. But blood tests are the best way to know what is the internal state of your body, because externally you don't know, right? Some symptoms, like people who have itchy eyes might think it's an allergy to pollen, where it might be a vitamin A deficiency. And vitamin A again is a vital nutrient when it comes to detox. So whatever is happening externally might not be a best reflection of what might be happening internally. Best is, get your blood test done, and that's the really most accurate way of finding out. So to add on to your point about copper, Sabita, so you're right, in moderation it's okay. What I have seen though is most people are highly zinc deficient because the soil quality itself is depleted, right? So zinc is not there only in the food we eat. So in that zinc depleted state, if they're having copper, then the zinc gets depleted even more. So again, like I said, it's when we see blood tests, we know better what
So
mineral,
you need
what
to
nutrient.
understand your body type and then act accordingly.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a question: does cooking kill the pesticides, especially leafy vegetables?
No. Like cooking does not kill pesticide. Cooking can kill bacteria to some extent, and that is the reason we say that then leafy vegetable and all you should not have raw. But then pesticide, as we showed in the video also, and we explained that pesticides, once it is sprayed on your food, it stays there. It does not get killed by anything. Instead you will get killed by using those pesticides continuously. So no, it does not kill pesticides.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
also a question for you that what's the difference between natural farming and organic farming? Person has
Okay,
asked.
so
So
natural farming is something which is done using the natural resources, which is you can say compared to the conventional farming it is much better. But then natural farming need not be 100% organic farming, because in the process of organic farming there are few parameters. If you start with the soil part of it, that how is the soil and what is the quality of soil, whether this soil has been kept organic for almost more than 10 years or so, then what is the kind of seeds we are using, is it an indigenous variety, is it a non GMO seeds. So whatever we use in organic farming, they are all non-GMO seeds what we use. So that is there. Then what is the kind of manure and fertilizers and everything what we are using, and then till it goes on like the pesticide part. And then also how do you preserve it, like for example there's a chemical called sulfaz and all, which is used to preserve the food or all your grains. So what happens, that sulfaz work on your body as a slow poison. So over the years, nowadays we are seeing in a very early age we start getting back pain or some bone problems. So sulfaz is something which works on your bones, and it depletes the quality of it over the period of time. So when we are talking about organic, it is end to end, like as I said, starting from the soiling, sowing, and the fertilization and the harvest of that, and how do you preserve it and how does it reach till you. So that is organic. In natural farming, what happens, like you are using everything which is naturally available, but then we may not look into all this parameter in detail. So that is the difference between organic and natural farming. Does that answer the question?
yes, I believe so. And then one question is that are Adarsh products available online for purchase?
Yes, so presently we are doing home deliveries from the store. So you can reach out to us. We will share the numbers and we can do the delivery. And we are also available on Zomato, Dunzo, and Swiggy and everything. And we have more than 600 products. So we are in the process of uploading all of them on our website. And very soon our website will be launched, and then you can directly order from website as well. Till then we are accessible on all different platforms and directly on phone, so you can feel free and order.
Okay. And Mukta, one is for you, like is homeopathy medicine toxin free? Like one person has, if you can help in the
So,
same.
yeah, I think that's from Vinaya, right? Now, the thing
Yeah,
with
Vinaya.
homeopathic medicines is, see, I have not studied homeopathy, so I don't understand how those medicines work too much. I know they work on a principle of dilution. My only issue with homeopathy is often the pills that are recommended are either sugar based or lactose based. So if you have an intolerance to lactose, like if you are dairy allergic to dairy, then those small pills can over time create some kind of a dysfunction. And the thing about medicine is the goal should be to end taking those medicines as soon as possible, right? The goal should not be to take medicines and wonder if they're free of toxins or not. So if you're taking medicines for something, then the goal should be to find out for what are you taking that medicine and when to stop taking that. So that's my perspective to homeopathy. But I don't like, I have not studied homeopathy in depth. So I only know that the pills that I used are sugar and lactose based. So that is why I'm not very comfortable with those pills.
Okay.
If I can add
And
to that, Shreyas,
yeah,
on this
yeah,
particular
please.
query, we just had last session with Adrish, with one of our very senior homeopathy doctor from Pune, Abhay Talwalkar sir. He is in Prana. So maybe I can just connect the person with him, and he can give all the detailed answer about homeopathy. And so that is what I can.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah. We also received a few questions through mail. So do we like, you guys want we can send to them
I
mail
think we
the
are like
answers, because
already over
yeah,
time,
half
right?
an hour
You
over
can
time.
just
Yeah,
reply to those questions on email itself.
that
If
would be
anyone
great.
here in the chat has any more questions,
Yes,
please ask.
please.
Otherwise, we'll end this because it's I mean, it's more than half an hour that we've shot over time.
Right.
So. All right. So what I'll do is, I'll just send the email ID to which you can send your reports. If any of you want to get your reports checked out by us. Also, for people who attend our sessions, we actually waive off our consultation charges. I mean, we give 50% off. So if you want to reach out to any of the nutritionists at Thrive, you want to have a one-on-one consultation with me, we do it at 50% off because you guys have put in the time to come here and attend this session. And again, Rutuja will reach out to you if you need any help there, but we will send an email after this session with all the details that we've discussed here, including the slides. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you, and I'm glad it was useful. Geeta will reach out to you, and so the consultation that I'm talking of is we just charge 500 for the initial consult, which is a 30-minute one, just to understand what is it that you really want to talk about and whether we can partner or not. Please answer about copper. Yeah, so what I was saying about copper, Asha, is that if you have a zinc depleted state already, then copper is a bad idea at that time, because any copper at that point will deplete more zinc from your body, and it's easier to get copper into your body than it is to get zinc. So the first focus will be about zinc. So if you have blood tests, if you or if you're going to get them done, send those, then we'll be able to tell you whether you really need to take excess copper or not from glass, drinking from copper or anything. All right, we'll end the session. Sabita and I are going online on Insta also in 30 minutes. So we need like a break, I think, to drink water and stuff.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
And thank you both of you for giving.
And this will be available on Thrive's Facebook page. The Facebook handle is, I think Rutuja has already shared the link. If you want to share, and then once we upload it to YouTube, I'll send the link in the email as well. So if you want to share it with someone else, you can do that. All right.
Great.
Thank you, Suyash, for being such a nice host and for being patient with both of us as we continue to talk.
I was loving the conversation. I was loving the insights by both of you. So actually, it helped me in a lot of things, and of course, it helped us all of us on a lot of things.
That reminds me one final question from Mugdha, that what are your best 5 picks from Adrish?
So what I like from Adrish, the last year also I came and picked up the mangoes. This year also mangoes. And then I love the dried banana. I don't get them anywhere else, right? Those. And then I've come and picked up all the dried herbs also. Because, you know, with herbs, what happens, I don't really want to buy a large quantity. I just need small quantities, right? So that. And then the household cleaners that you guys have, right? So sometimes when I come, they're out of stock.
Yeah.
I think those go out of stock before anything else. But I like those, the bioenzyme ones and all of that. But I've not come in the lockdown because it was like from Bane to come to Aun, it would become far. So I've not come for nearly 4 months.
Okay.
I used to come before.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.